Okay, 10 things I want to share with you today. 10 things that helped me get lean and trim when I started following a plant-based diet all those years ago. Take these, inject these into your strategy. I really think they're going to help you out. I'm in the new place here as well. It's been a little while since I've done a live stream. Give me a bit of feedback, folks, if you wouldn't mind, anyone watching live or after. I have a sense this is going to be slightly too echoey, which is a problem I'll need to solve for the next live stream or the next video. But without further ado, anyway, let's get into these. Tip number one, berries. I want you right now, if you want to lose a bit of weight, to eat lots of berries. I want to make clear here before I explain why that just eating a few berries in your diet is not going to do anything magical on top of what you're already eating, right? If you're eating a bunch of chocolate, a bunch of junk food, a bunch of takeout, adding a couple of berries to your diet every day, you ain't going to start losing weight magically. But it's this displacement theory, right? It's instead of me snacking on the Pop-Tarts like I used to back in my university days, or the potato chips, it's now munching on some berries. It's now throwing the berries on my healthy cereal bowls instead of the Crave and Cookie Crisp cereal that I used to have all those years ago. It's the berries in the smoothies, okay? Just grazing on a couple of berries between meals. No drama. No drama because they have such a low caloric density. And they have such a low caloric density because berries stand out in the fruit category. Generally, fresh fruit is incredible anyway from a weight loss and health perspective, but berries really stand out because they have a low sugar content. Now, I'm not sugar phobic, as I've spoken about many times here, but the fact that berries have such high water content and therefore low sugar content means that they're incredibly low in calories, even compared to lots of other fruits. So with raspberries, you're looking at 60 calories per cup. With blueberries, you're looking at 80 calories. Blackberries, one of my favorites, just gone out of season here, but one of my favorites, 60 calories again per cup, right? This is a lot of food volume for comparatively very few calories. Strawberries, the best arguably from a weight loss perspective in terms of because of their wonderfully low caloric density in the berry category. 45 calories per cup of strawberry halves. Astonishingly low in calories, in other words, astonishingly. Up there with, in the fruit category, up there with watermelon in terms of having such a low caloric density because of their high water content. So yeah, I love throwing berries in things nowadays because they are so low risk. They're a low risk food when it comes to weight loss because it's not impossible, but it is incredibly hard to overeat them. It really is. So that's my tip number one here. If you want to lean down, if you want to get trim right now, you want to be adding berries to things through this displacement theory. You want to be getting the little snacks out of your diet, all the things that might be adding, 300, 400, 500 extra calories to your daily diet. Replace them with berries for the same volume. And like that, you've trimmed off 400, 450 calories from your daily diet, like that. Like I said right at the start, berries, just eating more berries itself is not going to do anything magical alone. But via displacement theory, adding berries into your diet, minusing some of the junk stuff, they're just a wonderful sort of filler food that you can add to meals, that you can graze on and snack on pretty harmlessly. Like I say, very low risk, especially things like strawberries and raspberries from a weight loss perspective. So that has to be, without a doubt, my first tip here. And this has been easy for me, right? I've documented this before here, but fruit's never been a problem for me, right? I grew up in a house where in the garden we had 5 or 6 gooseberry bushes. Gooseberries, very underrated berry, actually. They're delicious. I love them. Well, I say delicious. I think they're delicious. I think a lot of people will find their own acquired taste. And a blackberry bush as well. And I would just stand out there, 8 years old, just munching on the berries. Make myself sick because I would just eat so many berries, even if they weren't ripe. And so for me, fruit, when I found a plant-based diet, any fear around fruit, any myth that people have about the sugar in fruit, any concerns that people understandably as well have about the sugar, not rightly, but understandably have about the sugar in fruit. Well, they were just dispelled from my mind because I grew up understanding the value of fruit. My mum was big on, fruits and veggies. Even if my diet wasn't perfect as a little whippersnapper, my mum was brilliant at setting a decent tone, especially with, like I say, fruits and veggies. And so for me, eating more berries, and what, you get leaner by doing that? It's a no-brainer, right? It was pretty easy. But berries, yeah, fantastic from a weight loss perspective. Tip number 2 then, I do eat bread. right? I want to make this clear to anyone new here. I do eat bread and I have lost weight and I maintain a low body fat percentage, relatively low body fat percentage, eating as follows. Bread in its typical form, toasted or in sandwiches, wraps that I can fill up burritos, I can make burritos with, pittas that I throw in falafels, hummus, veggies, and so on, bit of rice, pizzas, right? Healthy pizzas, but pizza bases, right? All of these breaded products I eat on I would say a very regular basis, a regular to a very regular basis. I wouldn't say once a day, but I would certainly say 4 or 5 times a week, I'm eating one of those bread products from the aforementioned list. The difference is this, though, that I choose clean bread, right? So I opt for something like a whole wheat product. And I opt for bread products with minimal ingredients, minimally processed. And these are still, get the green light from me, these are still, and have been for my body, very, very weight loss friendly. They've been fine. And you've seen me cover this in my videos before. You've seen my what I eat in a day videos, so you know that I'm comfortable with eating these things. But I still have new clients come to me, and I still have to sort of pitch them on, look, I've included bread in your meal plan. Give me a bit of trust here. I know you trust me, otherwise you wouldn't sign up with me for coaching, right? But give me your trust, and I'll repay it with good results on the scale. And you can watch yourself eat bread, or at least have the option via your meal plan, with thanks to your meal plan, to eat bread every day. And when you watch that scale go down, it's going to destroy that belief, that false narrative about bread in your mind. So even though I've been banging on about having healthy options for bread, and that's fine for weight loss for years, people still, again, understandably have a bit of hesitancy around it. This is your peace of mind on it. Remember, it's more about the daily calories. That's what matters most. And so you can even eat, this is not what I want to encourage, you can even eat a really, frankly, low quality bread that has zero nutritional value, very little nutritional value. And you can still lose weight if your overall daily calories are in check. In fact, you can eat 10 slices of bread a day and you'll still lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit. So already that should ease your mind anyway, give you a bit of peace of mind on it anyway. However, I choose personally, of course, to opt for the more healthy options. So things like bread, rye bread, whole wheat, sourdough isn't too bad either. If you're in the US, for example, I love the Dave's Killer range. I love even more so the Ezekiel range. Super clean bread products. If you're in the UK, well, you're in trouble. It's a lot harder. I think the best I've found recently is the Bertinet, spelt Bertinet, but I presume the aristocratic pronunciation of Bertinet. It sounds like a French word, doesn't it? But Bertinet Bakery, they have some pretty clean bread products that are suitable for vegans. So bread is fine, and I eat bread very regularly, and I maintain, the body weight I want eating bread multiple times per week, as I say. I go through periods where I eat it every day, where I have a sandwich every day. I haven't been doing that lately, but still multiple times a week I'm eating bread, and it's no problem whatsoever. The rules are as follows. Number one, I aim to choose the decent quality breads, the best quality breads I can find in terms of how clean, quote unquote, they are, and how whole foodsy, let's say, they are. Minimal white flour, certainly no eggs or dairy, of course, and minimal sort of artificial nasties. That's oil as well. That's what I aim for. The cleanest, and it's not always perfect, but the cleanest breads I can possibly find. That's rule number one. Rule number two is remembering that, well, the rest of your diet needs to be in check. And what are you having on the bread, right? Are you loading that bread? Are you filling that sandwich with something decent? What are you putting in that wrap? What quantity of the rice and the beans and the salsa are you putting in that tortilla wrap to make a burrito for yourself? Is the whole meal appropriate for your nutrition needs to lose weight? Does that make sense? So yeah, so many people, they have like this fear of ingredients from a weight loss perspective. And what I always say to people on this is, look, it's your overall daily diet that makes a difference. It's the total caloric consumption that's going to move the needle most of all on the scales every day. So you don't really need to worry too much about individual ingredients. You want to be thinking about your meals over the course of the day as a whole as to whether you're going to lose weight or not. So many people get, pasta, bread. Oh, Ryan, am I eating too many bananas to lose weight? And I'm like, it's not about the ingredient, it's about the total caloric consumption. Now, you can argue, well, if you're eating 10 slices of bread a day and it kind of becomes a bit of a filler food and you're just throwing stuff into the toaster all the time and on bread isn't the same to you unless you have a load of butter on it or margarine and you add 100 calories with a tablespoon of margarine or butter, right? Then we've got a problem, right? Because then the bread is helping contribute a lot of calories to your overall daily diet. But the bread itself being the reason for you not losing weight is not true. It's simply too many calories overall. Do you see that distinction? Does that make sense? It's a lot of words. I didn't really articulate that as well as I wanted to, but hopefully that makes sense. Tip number 3 here that has been crucial to me and I've been banging on about for years on this channel, but this is really good for newcomers to hear. Avoid coconut oil. Because it's in so many processed foods, right? And I talk about the other oils and the perils with those, but coconut oil is in so many processed vegan junk products nowadays. So many processed, so many fake meats and that sort of thing. They've got coconut oil in. It's lethal. And it's lethal because, number one, its caloric density, like other oils, is huge. So a tablespoon or so of coconut oil is about 110 calories. So, you know, most of the time you're not going to have a whole tablespoon of coconut oil, but think about half a tablespoon that you fry some of your food in. It's 50 calories from something that was half a tablespoon. In terms of like bang for your buck for calories, what do you actually get from that, right? Versus, remember earlier I was saying, a cup of strawberry halves is 45 calories, right? That would be the equivalent of around half a tablespoon of oil. So you got a cup of strawberry halves versus, I wish I had them here to show you. Hold on. So you've got a cup of strawberry halves versus, where's the spoon when I need one? Here we go. Come on, we're doing this on the fly. Still sorting out my new kitchen, as you can probably see here. It looks like completely empty, and it's because it is. All the stuff is behind before I sort it out later on. Versus half a tablespoon, right? Half a tablespoon of coconut oil versus, am I in frame? I don't know. Versus a cup of strawberry halves, same amount of calories. So when you start thinking about caloric density, that's when it changes the game for you for weight loss, because you can start putting together plates of food that still give you so much fullness and satisfaction. And it's this idea that I go back to 30 seconds ago, if you want to get most bang for your buck, right? If you're trying to lose weight right now and you have to get yourself in a calorie deficit, you want to think, right, how can I get myself in a calorie deficit most easily? How can I give myself the best possible chance of actually sticking to a calorie deficit? Well, I need to feel full and satisfied and feel like the foods I'm eating, the meals I'm eating, they're not a chore for me. I actually get some enjoyment from them. Okay, I do kind of miss the junk food and I still have cravings from time to time because I've been eating those things for so long historically. But it makes it so much easier to be in a deficit when I can eat big portions, I can play this volume eating game, and I can still enjoy the foods I'm eating. And I flavor them well, and I use sauces, and I'm not scared of a little bit of fat or a little bit of healthy bread. That's the stuff that makes losing weight far more enjoyable than a lot of people think that losing weight must be, right? And so we want to think about this concept of getting bang for your buck. You've only got so many calories that you can eat and still see results on the scale. You've only got so many calories you can eat per day. So you want to maximize the volume and the quality of nutrition that you get from those. And coconut oil, or by extension, any oil, is just such a terrible ratio of satisfaction to calorie content. Does that make sense? And it's not only the calorie thing, right? It's not only the fact that coconut oil is 110 calories per tablespoon that irritates me about it, and it's why I don't have it here and I avoid it at all costs. And maybe every now and again I eat out and they've made something in coconut oil. I don't sweat that if that happens every now and again, but I will certainly stay away from it very regularly. I have no oil at home. I haven't had oil in my house unless I've had a housemate, a flatmate in years and years and years and years. I don't use oil at home. It's only when I go out to eat, right, occasionally. But anyway, I digress. It's not just the caloric density, especially with coconut oil, right? It's the saturated fat content. It's not the same as extra virgin olive oil, which has very low saturated fat content. Not that I particularly recommend extra virgin olive oil as well for the calorie reasons. But, the saturated fat content with coconut oil is incredibly, incredibly high. Saturated fat, of course, associated with many major diseases, chronic diseases. So avoid coconut oil at all costs, I would say. Tip number 4, then, to help you lose weight on a plant-based diet, keep things simple. Keep things simple. How much have I talked about this over the years? You've heard Tia talk about this a million times as well. We talked about it in that podcast again and again and again, didn't we? Simplicity is such a running theme in my conversations with my clients, because a couple of weeks on the program and they realize, if they don't already coming into the program, they realize how important it is to actually just be a little bit repetitive with meals, to keep the meals themselves very non-complex, to actually give themselves a shot at sticking to this, right? And a lot of people, they want the flavor and they label themselves as foodies, and I get it. I get enjoying food. I like eating. Who doesn't, right? And I want my food to taste good. But I am still, at the same time, I'm still, and have been over the last few years, very willing to sacrifice a little bit of taste to make a meal very practical for me. I will do that. If I can halve the length of time that it takes to make a meal with a small shortcut that involves less chopping, fewer pots and pans on the stove, I will do. I'm such a big advocate, as you longer term viewers know, of simplicity, and I highly recommend it to you. Now, what I deem as being practical and simple as a meal might differ massively from what you deem it. But I think my point here is, you're not trying to be a recipe vlogger, right? I assume you're not trying to be a YouTuber or an Instagram person that puts all your food pictures up and you want to make really elaborate, colorful looking dishes. We're about simplicity. We're about getting the job done. And you just need to do what's necessary to get results on the scale, right? That's the primary objective here, to change your health, to lose a bit of weight. I presume that's why you're here following me, right? So we don't have ambitions to make our food. We don't need to make our food look as colorful or beautiful or as aesthetic as possible. We just need to get the job done, and we want to do what's required to do that and no more. And for me in my life, what's been fantastic for me is just giving myself permission to keep things simple and do 5 to 6 different meals every week. Every week, this is breakfast, lunch, and dinner, by the way. It's only 5 to 6 different meals. I could easily eat the same breakfast every day. I've been having my cereal bowls for years and years and years. For probably 350 of my breakfasts every year, I've been eating a cereal bowl, right? And I've done that for 3 or 4 years. And before that, I was eating oatmeal for 3 or 4 years. And I could just cycle through these phases. I'm sure I'll get bored of the cereal bowls at some point. Lunches, I only need 2 or 3 options to be happy. And we're going to run through a potential meal plan, a meal plan template for you in 5-10 minutes or so. So stick with me if you want to hear that and get some notes ready so you can jot this stuff down as we go. But yeah, 5 or 6 different meals, including the dinners as well. I'm pretty happy with my sort of burrito bowls for dinners, and I can just rotate between those. I love tofu stir fry. A lot of my clients will be laughing because that's one of the meals in lots of my clients' meal plans. I love my tofu stir fries, and I could have that easily at the moment 3 to 4 days a week very happily. So I'm just rotating 5 or 6 different meals. So I would say for you right now, if you're looking at the vegan cookbooks, if you get slightly overwhelmed, all the elaborate ingredients, if you end up going to the grocery store and you've got this huge list of ingredients, if you find yourself going into your fridge every week and you have to actually throw stuff away because you don't get to that fresh produce in time, I strongly urge you to give yourself whatever permission you need, or let me give you whatever permission you need, blessing you need, to just keep things really simple. Pick 5 or 6 different meals you're going to eat in the upcoming week and just stick to those. It doesn't need to be complicated. What for? Who are you making all these sexy meals for if it's not you, right? So I think that's tip number 4, is the value of simplicity. Really, really key. Number 5. What would those, and I promised this was coming, what would those simple meals look like? I suppose that's a good follow-up question. So let me give you a bit of a meal plan here. Excuse me, folks, I've got all the notes on my phone. Don't want you to think I'm being rude and texting or something like that whilst I'm on WhatsApp whilst I'm on here. I'm not. I've just got all my notes here for this little live stream. So breakfast, couple of ideas here. Oatmeal, mentioned that earlier, plus berries, plus some seeds, so chia, flax, hemp seeds, walnut halves I love for the omega-3s and omega-6s, so oatmeal plus berries and seeds, maybe a little bit of banana, something like stevia, drop of maple syrup, some brown sugar. I'm cool with sweeteners. I'm cool with healthier sweeteners to actually make that meal taste good. That's a great breakfast option. Avocado on whole wheat toast. We talked about bread earlier. Tofu scramble, one of the more popular dishes, one of the most popular breakfast recipes amongst my clients as well. Tofu scramble with a bunch of veggies in there. So you take, for me, I'll do about 8 ounces of tofu. That's probably going to be a lot for people watching at home. I can't advise on portion sizes without knowing anything about you, but I personally do about 8 ounces, about 220, 230 grams of tofu. I crumble that up, I throw that in, and I put a bunch of veggies in there. It's whatever I've got. So it might be mushrooms go really well. So I might do mushrooms. I might throw some kale in there. I'll certainly throw some onion, a bit of garlic in there. In terms of seasoning, I'll use a little bit of nutritional yeast, maybe a bit of turmeric. People like for that scrambled eggy kind of taste. Salt, pepper, etc., etc. And then I love bagel seasoning as well. What's it called? Everything but the bagel seasoning. It's probably, where is it? It's probably here somewhere. I haven't got it. It's because I've if you just joined the live stream, you don't realize I've just moved into my new place. you can't see it, but I've got all of the stuff that needs to get packed into these cupboards here on this table. I need to move it over the next couple of days. But this I got from Trader Joe's in the US, everything but the bagels, sesame seeds are really good. So that goes very, very nicely with something like a tofu scramble. I might serve that with a bit of avocado on a slice of toast. Yeah, I love a tofu scramble. My muesli bowls, that's another great breakfast option. Love my muesli bowls, love my bran flakes again. Throw some berries on there, maybe a bit of banana if you're a fan. Not for me personally, but berries. I'm like the only plant-based diet that doesn't like banana. I'm always joking about, right? But yeah, I love these healthy cereal bowls. I just love bowls generally. Bowls for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I love little medleys of things because it gives you, we spoke about the value of simplicity 2 minutes ago. It gives you so much versatility in a simple template. There's so many things you can switch up to stop it from getting stale without you having to do really complicated things. And it depends, again, what produce is seasonal, what you've got left over from previous days. When you have this sort of, when you follow like a bowl template, it's cool to just throw things together. So it depends what cereal I've got. Like right now, you can just about see it. I've got the Jordan's Natural Muesli there. Behind, I've got these little fiber flakes because I can't find bran flakes in the local supermarket now. I've moved. And I mix those together. And in the fridge, I've got strawberries. And in the freezer, I've got frozen blueberries. I mix those together, a little bit of chia seed, drop of stevia, some unsweetened almond milk. Love it. Good to go. So yeah, I love these little cereal bowls. That's what I've been eating for years. Lunch. Hummus sandwiches, great option there. Bean and salsa wraps, love those. Chickpea pasta salad, couscous and mixed bean salad. Again, this is pretty simple stuff. There's, you need to think about it. There's a bit of prep involved, but it's not elaborate stuff from those vegan cookbooks that have 20 different ingredients. Does that make sense? Dinners, grain and bean bowls, love those. Lentil bolognese, quick tofu stir fry. So just to give you some examples there, a bit of a template meal plan. We're talking really simple stuff, aren't we? I'm sure you'd agree watching at home. This is simple stuff. This really isn't complicated. Tip number 6 then. Understand that vegan junk food is still junk food, all right? Terrible for you in most cases. And you can argue that it might be better in some ways. Maybe it's got a lower saturated fat content than the dairy or meat-based alternative. Maybe it's fewer in calories for one reason or another. But I could find a bunch of vegan products that would actually be more calorific than the meat and dairy substitute or alternative. So that goes both ways, right? But maybe you can argue it's better ethically, of course. But from a health perspective, maybe you can argue that the vegan junk food is better. Well, it's still not good for you. And I personally feel my best and I get leaner in the times when more of my diet is focused on whole foods, which is what I try and do 95% of the time, as many whole foods as possible. And the processed foods I do have are mostly pretty clean processed foods, like many I've talked about in this stream, like the breads, like red lentil pasta, green pea. This one is pasta. Actually, it's green pea. You saw the Freudian slip there because this is green pea pasta with red lentil pasta in there. I don't know how that's happened. But yeah, and so even most of the processed food I have is still very weight loss friendly, and I would call it fairly intact anyway. Like it's whole wheat pasta, not white flour pasta, so it's less messed around with anyway. So it's still pretty intact. It's still pretty whole foodsy, even if it is technically processed. But yeah, that's most of the processed stuff in my diet. And every now and again, I will have a vegan dessert. I will have a Beyond Burger every now and again. But those things are a very minor part of my diet. And I understand that the calorie content that they contain versus whole foods, the fat content, the other chemicals and additives and other stuff thrown in there, I know those aren't ideal for me. And I know that too many of those in my diet is going to compromise all the hard work I've put in over the last couple of years to get the results that I'm so pleased and proud of anyway. So it's a no-brainer for me to just stick to the cleaner whole foods that actually give me more fullness and satisfaction, make me feel better about myself anyway. I don't feel terrible after eating them. So that's what I focus on most of my diet on. So yeah, understand that vegan junk food is still junk. And I think a lot of people are holding on to this sort of copium of, well, at least it's not from animal products, right? So it must be better. It must be better, yeah, ethically. But from a health perspective, they're thinking, oh, it must be better. It's a step in the right direction. I don't know. Is it? If you're losing weight right now, then the little bit of vegan junk food you occasionally have, you don't need to sweat it. But if that's sneaking into your diet every day and you're not watching the scale go down, removing that and switching those foods, substituting those foods for more whole foods, it's going to make a hell of a difference, right? That could lower your calorie intake daily by 600 to 800, 1,000 calories, just like that. while still eating as much food volume, like even with a substitution approach, if you're eating lots of junk food. It's just so calorific, even the vegan stuff. Tip number 7, recognize that eating this way isn't a magic pill. It's changed my life, right? It's changed. I cannot deny that it's changed my life, right? All the credit for my success with my body and my physique and my health over the last couple of years, it goes to plant-based eating. And maybe I could be a little bit egotistical about it and say, well, I still had to put in the work. And that is true, to be honest. But I still had to put in the work, and I had to fix the bad habits and that boredom eating that I used to do when I was sort of 20, 21 and a little bit lost and didn't really push myself at university, so kind of lent on food a little bit too much. Yeah, I was the person that had to overcome those things, but a plant-based diet was such a great vehicle for me for starting and losing a bit of weight. And actually, I played with weight loss before, as you guys know. I got results before. I've been into health and fitness since I was 18. I just didn't get to the weight I wanted to, or certainly didn't for very long. The plant-based diet was that breakthrough moment for me. It was when I gave it a couple of weeks, I was like, boom, this is the thing I've been missing. I did feel like it was the secret sauce that I've been missing, and that's still how I reflect on it today. That was the one big thing that moved the needle for me. However, at the same time, two things can be simultaneously true. As much as it moved the needle for me, at the same time, there was a lot of bad habits, and there was emotional eating, and there was cravings, and there was limiting beliefs that I had about myself. And all of those things need to be overcome. And a plant-based diet wasn't somehow magically going to fix all of those things altogether for me. So yeah, plant-based diet can indeed change your life, and it could well be the thing you're missing right now if you're watching this. And just alone going plant-based may lead to incredible weight loss results. But there's going to be a glass ceiling that's created by your own ability to be consistent. So my advice to you is you need to plug the leaks. Find the things that make you inconsistent. Find the food addictions and afflictions, and know that a plant-based diet on its own ain't going to solve that stuff entirely. And maybe you will have less cravings when you start eating more whole foods. You will likely find that in time. And maybe you can argue that the stress eating that you currently do with junk food, if the stress eating itself didn't reduce, but if you replaced the things you were stress eating from junk foods or vegan junk foods, whatever, to some of the stuff I've talked about in this live stream, berries and whole wheat bread or whatever it is, hummus sandwiches, cereal bowls, you could argue that would be considerably better. It would be considerably better. Maybe you would lose a little bit of weight doing that. But your level of inconsistency right now caused by those bad habits and cravings and emotional eating and yada, 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 it creates a glass ceiling for yourself. And there's only so much a healthy, balanced plant-based diet will actually be able to do for you if you can't stay consistent. So please recognize right now that a plant-based diet ain't going to save you on its own. It ain't going to be enough to entirely get rid of, as I say, bad habits, emotional eating. You'll have to probably do a little bit of internal work as well. As much as it's changed my life, I also know that I had for so many years made so many mistakes with weight loss that the mindset and the attitude that I had by the time I discovered, and the knowledge I had by the time I discovered a plant-based diet, it meant that it all just clicked into place for me pretty rapidly. But it wasn't an overnight success. There were years of me binging and me making lots of mistakes. And even after I went plant-based, after I went vegan in 2015, I still would binge eat for about 18 months after that. It just died down. It just wasn't so frequent. And we can talk about how to solve that in other videos I have already. That's a different matter entirely. Let's not open that can of worms here, right, on binge eating and emotional eating and whatnot. But you get my point, right? This isn't a magic pill, so you still need to do that internal work as well. Please don't have these crazy, unrealistic expectations. Please don't get angry and think, oh, screw this whole plant-based thing because it didn't fix all your cravings. Right. And I've seen people throw great strategies away because they had some false expectation from the internet that they were never going to have a single problem again just by being plant-based. And look, two things can be true. It has changed my life, but at the same time, there were things I had to do to become the right person to allow plant-based eating to change my life. And you can't, if you have false expectations of what a plant-based diet can do, if you're thinking that it's going to be your savior and you're a magic pill, and you're unwilling to work on the bad habits, or you're also unwilling to do some exercise, you're also unwilling to take care of your sleep and stress management and stay hydrated, the other variables that are really important for your health and well-being as well. A plant-based diet's only going to get you so far. You're going to create, as I say, that glass ceiling for yourself. Point made. I'm going on and on and on here. Tip number 8 that I feel was pretty important, has been pretty important, in my plant-based journey, and I spoke about this in a YouTube video a couple of months ago. I spoke about it on the Slim Vegan channel, my second sort of backup YouTube channel here. Just search the Slim Vegan if you want to subscribe to that and get more content from me there, more tips from me there. I spoke about this very recently, but unsweetened almond milk. Unsweetened almond milk is amazing. And I love soy milk, I love oat milk, and I've had lots of those in my time as well. But almond milk has about half the calories of soy milk, for example. And that's not a lot in a couple of tablespoons, right? So if you're throwing it into your teas and coffees, I mean, almond milk in teas and coffees is, from what I hear, is ghastly anyway. I'm not a hot beverage person, but it's ghastly anyway. So maybe that's not realistic. But that's not going to make a massive difference to your overall daily diet. But let's get the tools out, the utensils out again for demonstration purposes, show and tell time. But if you're having 1 or 2 or 3 of these a day, well, you might save 50, 60 calories by switching from oat milk, rice milk, hazelnut milk. I don't know about hazelnut milk actually, so I shouldn't say that. There's a few assumptions in that. 2 almond milk, soy milk, 2 almond milk. Well, you might say 50, 60, 70 calories over the course of the day. It's not a massive amount, but these little things add up. With your other habits too, these little things add up, and they can be enough to get you through a plateau. So, or get the weight moving just a little bit faster. That might not be much more fat lost every day, but you stack that up over the course of weeks, and you might well get to your goal body weight a great deal faster, weeks or months faster. Just make that journey far more efficient. So yeah, unsweetened almond milk has been such a godsend for me. And this one was easy because, as a former gym bro, a lot of gym bros, they don't drink cow's milk. They don't drink cow's milk because calorically it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for many reasons, but gym bros recognize that calorically it's a nightmare. And so there's a lot of gym bros that are big on almond milk anyway. So I have actually drunk almond milk on and off for 12 years, probably. For 12. Makes me sound bloody old, doesn't it? I know I don't look it, but that makes me sound bloody old. So yeah, I've drunk that for, well over a decade now, almond milk. So I already recognize this. So this was easy for me. I didn't have to adjust the taste going vegan. I never missed dairy. I was a big dairy person, but I didn't miss it in the end because I'd already got ready for almond milk. I could see its value calorically and how it's a bit of a cheat code for dieting, quote unquote, weight loss, dieting, whatever. So yeah, that would be my tip number 8 is, by all means, other plant milks can be absolutely fine. You can still lose plenty of weight and get really healthy drinking. Depends on the brand and product in question. Drinking other plant milks, but for me, almond milk, that's been a bit of a hack to ensure that my calories are a bit lower than they otherwise would be if I was having more soy milk. Make sense? Liz, hello. I haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're well, Liz. Ali says, have you had spelt bread? Yeah, I mean, you don't get it often here, but it's great. Spelt is a fantastic grain. Afternoon from Wales. You're not far from me, Ali, depending on where you are in Wales. What's your view? Oh, you've got lots of questions. What's your view on organic fruits and vegetables? My view is fantastic. That they're fantastic. Expensive, but fantastic. Tip number 9 then. We've got 2 more here after this. Tip number 9, fresh fruit over dried fruit. I've talked a lot about fruit here. Tip number 1 was berries, right? Fruit is incredible for weight loss. Like vegetables, secondary to vegetables, I think fruit is the best food group for weight loss. And there are lots of myths, misunderstandings about the sugar content in fruit, which I'm not. Again, that's another video for another time. I mean, I've done it. I've made these videos and I've posted about this on Instagram a million times. So I'm not going to repeat it all here. But I mean, the short story is the natural sugars in fruit that come with a bunch of other minerals and vitamins as well, antioxidants. They are not anywhere comparable to the added refined stacks of sugar that are thrown in soda and candies and yada, yada, yada. So that's that. But fruit after vegetables, the best food group for weight loss, I think. Absolutely amazing. However, little asterisk on that comment there. Dried fruit. Now, I do eat dried fruit. There's raisins in my muesli. There's a packet of raisins somewhere here, probably behind the camera. I throw raisins into my chia and oatmeal cookies that you guys know I love, that I've published the recipe for previously. And my clients seem to really enjoy. Dates I'll have every now and again. They bring up my acne, so I don't have them too often. Dried apricots I quite enjoy. Bit of dried mango in the periods where if I'm playing a bit of tennis or if I'm on the out the door to martial arts and I need something, it's been ages since I've eaten, I'll have a bit of dried mango. That's really great for a bit of energy fast. So I love dried fruit. I do enjoy dried fruit, but I do not eat it anywhere near as liberally as I eat fresh fruit. No way near. No way near. Whereas fresh fruit, I'm very casual with. If I want a bit of melon, there's some melon in my fridge right now, honeydew in my fridge right now, I go and get it. I go and get it and I don't sweat it. If I feel it's really genuine hunger, I go and get it and I sweat it. I don't treat dates or raisins like that. I would not just go and grab a handful of raisins because they're so easy to just eat and eat and eat and eat because the water content is removed. This is why the water content is removed, so the calorie density is entirely different. Does that make sense? And it's just so easy to eat. So yeah, that's why I'm pretty I don't know. I'm more careful, let's say, is probably the way to. I'm being cautious with my words here because I don't want you guys to be absolutely terrified of dried fruit, right? You see me eat dried fruit often, so I'll be a massive hypocrite for instilling that into you. But you know, compared to fresh fruit, if you're looking to lose weight right now, you're having a lot of dried fruit, it's a no-brainer to try and get onto more fresh fruit, which you can eat way more liberally. It's way more, as I said about berries at the start, lower risk than dried fruit. And you see people, you know, it was a bit of a trend for years in the vegan online space to have these massive smoothies where you're throwing in 10 bananas and a bunch of dates. And, you know, these could be great. And I could eat those because I'm 5'11", extremely active. You know, I'm at my weight loss goal, so that changes things as well. 29-year-old male. So I could throw 8 bananas and 10 medjool dates into a smoothie, and that could be a decent meal for me that doesn't lead to significant weight gain. But for you at home, if you're 60 years old, female, 130 pounds, very sedentary, that's an extreme example as a difference from me, but just to characterize this, well, that's going to be over half of your daily caloric allowance probably to actually get some decent results on the scale. Make sense? So yeah, dried fruit, yeah, just be a little bit cautious with it, I would suggest. If you're having lots of dried fruit right now, scratching your head thinking, well, I'm eating loads of fruit. My diet's really clean. Why am I not losing weight? Switch to fresh. That could be enough to get things moving. I don't know what the rest of your diet is like, but that could indeed be enough to get things moving. Oh, you're from South Wales, Ali. You're not too far from me, so I don't know if you know I live in Bath, so you're just over the water from me. What about dried figs? Dried figs, excuse me, Ali says as well. Same deal. I like figs though. Oh, aren't figs? Isn't a good fig delicious? You don't always get them, but isn't a good fig delicious? Number 10, penultimate one here. I want you to limit snacking and grazing between meals. Now, slight double standard coming here because I just mentioned to you I've got melon in my fridge. If I believe that I'm hungry, I'll just go and munch on some. Even though it's not dinner time for me yet, I'll just go and grab some. Right, it's different for me. I'm at my weight goal, but even when I was losing weight, I did snack, and I do like to have every day an afternoon snack. And that hasn't been a barrier to me getting to the body fat percentage I've wanted to. That's been no problem whatsoever. However, notice I didn't say avoid or completely minimize snacking between meals. I just said limit it because that might be appropriate for you. And I think a lot of time when people snack or graze, it's not from a place of genuine hunger. Whereas for me, I've been doing this for so long, I would like to think I'm relatively in touch with that. I would like to think I can know and listen for the hunger cues and signals as to when I'm genuinely hungry and my body genuinely needs calories or nutrition. And if you're not to patronize or condescend in any way and suggest that you're not capable of that, you might well be. But let's be bloody realistic about this. For many years, I wouldn't know if I was actually hungry or not because I'd so damaged my ability to be able to tell that and to actually eat with any sensible intuition whatsoever. So assuming that that somewhat at least resonates with you to even a small degree, you're going to be watching this, and the very idea of trusting yourself to know when you're hungry or not, it's going to be very, realistically, it's going to be really intimidating to you. And I think as a general rule, a lot of people snack and graze between meals because they get to the 3 or 4 p.m. lull in their day, because they're bored, because they have an argument with their spouse or with their boss, and they're like, oh, I need something to just quell, or they're overwhelmed by a task, so it's easier to just grab food as something to do rather than think about what the task actually entails because they're frozen in that overwhelm or that stress or whatever. Or they want a little treat because they've actually had a really good day, so they deserve that reward or that pick-me-up, right? Whatever form of emotional eating might well be happening here. I think people graze and they snack largely not because they're actually hungry. Whereas what I was describing earlier was hunger-based snacking and a very, I would like to think, mindful and conscious choice for me to do that. But that has taken me years to get to. And so that's what I would say for you is, as a general rule, I think it is very wise to limit snacking and grazing between meals. You could easily be adding 300 calories to your daily diet without even thinking about it because you're munching on a few cashew nuts or nut butters. And so also it depends what you're snacking on, right? If you're snacking on berries, like I said at the start, well, that's very low risk. So you get away with that likely from a scale perspective. But if you're snacking on something more calorific, I want you to start asking yourself right now, do I really need this? As you're about to put that food in your mush, in your mouth, I want you to ask yourself, do I really need this? Am I actually hungry, or is there another reason driving me to eat right now? And finally, tip number 11, isn't it about time we had an exercise one? Isn't it about time? My goodness, this is one of my gripes. Without naming names or speaking disparagingly about my peers, this is one of my gripes, frankly, with other teachers and coaches and gurus, gosh, I hate that word, in the plant-based space, just this neglect of the subject of exercise. Yeah, we're here to talk about the nutrition. And yeah, the general consensus I agree with that nutrition is going to be the biggest variable in dictating success with health, mastery, and weight loss. We're all in agreement on that largely in the health world. That's not contentious. But that doesn't mean that other things don't contribute, right? And exercise is one of those things that I think is in the plant-based world is underplayed and doesn't get as much coverage as it needs. And the particular tip I've got for you today is if you get a baseline of about 8,000 steps in per day, that's pretty darn decent. That's going to burn some calories in itself. That's going to have some metabolic benefits itself. And what I love about walking versus more intense forms of exercise, which I partake in. You guys know I love, like I said earlier, the tennis, the martial arts, stuff that gets my heart rate up, bit of strength training, stuff that gets my heart rate up more so than a little bit of walking. What I love about walking compared to those other things is that it doesn't spike appetite in anywhere near the same degree. And so those other things, when I do lots of Muay Thai, when I do lots of tennis, when I do lots of weight training, my appetite is huge compared to the periods where maybe I go on vacation, I don't do as much of that and I'm doing more steps. And so, just through anecdotal observation and self-experimentation, in all my years being interested in fixing my health since I was 18, my personal observation is that I can actually get leaner when I'm not doing as much intense exercise because I'll fill it with walking anyway, because I just love to get out and move. And I've lived in cities since I was 18. So I've had to walk everywhere in most cases. Ironically, I've just moved slightly out of the city right here for the first time in many, many moons, many, many years. But yeah, I will actually get leaner in those times because I can control my appetite. I can regulate my appetite way more easily than the times where I'm doing so much exercise, so much intense exercise, I should say, that my body is just like wants to eat everything in sight. And that's kind of dangerous. And that's not to say that you can't do intense forms of exercise. It's a balance that you will learn. But the data on this is quite clear as well in terms of the difference in walking versus intense forms of exercise. Let's say walking versus running. There are really compelling studies on walking versus intense forms of exercise. You can actually burn the same amount of calories with those two exercise sessions, but appetite will spike far less. It will increase far less with the walking, even though the same bottom line amount of calories are burned as a brass tacks. So I love that. And I think that's a bit of a cheat code for weight loss. So 8,000 steps is a very arbitrary number. In the same way that the ever heralded 10K steps per day is a slightly arbitrary number. It's like, why is that a magical number? Well, it's just a nice milestone. And I think I've said 8,000 because I think for newbies, 8,000 is far less daunting and far more practical than 10,000. And I think 8,000 for most people, if they get their diet in order, is more than enough exercise. It's more than enough exercise to facilitate weight loss. Whereas if I maybe said 4,000 or 5,000 steps, we're going to be looking at a very nutrition-led approach, which I have anyway. but you're going to be very reliant on your nutrition being really on point. And 8,000, it just creates a little bit more certainty and wiggle room that you're actually going to get results. So that would be tip number 11. Even though today this was about plant-based diets, and that's in the title, and that's what we've talked about in the other 10 tips, I wanted to include an exercise tip here because I don't think, in all fairness, it gets enough coverage in the plant-based world. A couple of questions here before we wrap up. Before I do these, though, I'm just going to give myself a self-plug here. Hopefully you found all this information useful. Hopefully there's 11 tips there, several of which you can consider adding into your strategy if you haven't thought about already. Hopefully I shared some new perspectives and insights that you hadn't heard before, if I may hope that I was able to do that. And hopefully just the free information here on this channel, after goodness knows how many videos, 700 probably videos here, 100 on the Slim Vegan channel, thousands of posts on my Instagram page. I do hope, and the feedback I generally get is fantastic, but I do hope that the free information is useful. But if you want that next level of support and accountability and clarity and instruction, if you want me to personally walk you one-on-one through the process of losing weight step by step, check out the Vegan Slim and Sustain program. Nearly 400 vegans and plant-based dieters through that program now. Over 240 of which lost 20 pounds in the first 12 weeks on that program. So it's a program I'm incredibly proud of. At this stage, it's definitely fair to say it's time-tested, it's battle-proven. I know pretty immediately who's going to be a good fit for that program. And if it does happen to be you after a brief conversation after you've applied to learn more, then I can pretty much guarantee that your results are going to be life-changing and phenomenal, because I know, and I know that sounds slightly arrogant and presumptuous without even meeting you, but I just know if I let you in the program and I've done my vetting as I rightly should, as any good coach should, to make sure you're the right fit for it, it'll be useful to you and you're the right person to do it, you've got the commitment, the willpower, the desire to actually do it, then I know with a great deal of certainty that I can help you because I've got this ironed out system. So if you do want that next level of support to actually guarantee results rather than trying to piece this whole thing together from yourself from free YouTube videos, which are helpful, but if you want that next level, if you need that next level to ensure that you lose anywhere between 10 and 20 pounds before Christmas, so less than 90 days now to the end of the year. If you want to lose your first 10 to 20 pounds before Christmas, eating simple plant-based meals without having to count a single calorie yourself, I do all the designing of your meal plan for you, so you don't even need to count calories. Starting out with walking only. We are going to do other exercise in time. I am going to push you with the exercise, but walking only. So it's a nice gentle start for the first month, walking only. If that all sounds good to you, if you're watching that like, yeah, that sounds good to me, right? Sign me up. Head to veganslimandsustain.com, fill out the application there. And like I say, I'll be in touch to see if you'd be a good fit for the program, if we'd be the right chemistry fit to work together. It isn't for everyone, so please don't take it personally if I say respectfully, no, I don't think this is going to help you. I don't think we're quite the right fit. But if you are the right fit, we're going to get you some amazing results before the end of the year. And it's winter time, right? This is when people shell up and they get cozy and they want the comfort food. And then you've got Halloween. And for my American clients, you've got Thanksgiving to contend with. And then goodness forbid, people start eating badly in the holidays for Christmas about 2 weeks out. From December the 1st, what am I on about 2 weeks out? From December the 1st, people are like, well, it's Christmas, I may as well. I'm like, Christmas is on the 25th. What are you talking about? It's the 1st. Yeah, well, it's Christmas. Winter weight gain. They make a meme out of it. They make a joke of themselves. They almost accept defeat. So if you want to go against the grain on that one, veganslimandsustain.com. Let's see if we'd be a good fit to work together. Ryan, help me. How do I get rid of a big belly? I think I'm doing everything right, but don't know what's going on. If you think you're doing everything right, but you don't know what's going on, it's very, very likely in all probability a calorie issue, my friend. So you just need to spend a couple of days tracking your calories on Chronometer on MyFitnessPal. I appreciate people don't want to think about calories. And I'm not saying, by the way, you need to count calories for the rest of your weight loss journey. You don't need to do that. But you need to spend a couple of days counting calories. You need to use a calorie calculator online like omnicalculator.com. Go there, check what your maintenance calories are, and see if you're actually overeating, because there's a very good chance you are. And then I would say start with a 300 calorie deficit. Do that for 4 or 5 days so you know what a 300 calorie deficit looks and feels like with your meals. And then you're not going to need to count calories again, because you'll know, okay, this is about 1,800 or 2,000 or 1,650 calories or 2,200, depending on who you are, 2,200 calories. And then it's just a case of staying consistent with that. So And that seems like a lengthy process, but I've pretty much just broken down the whole secret for you there, step by step. That's what you're going to need to do over the coming week or two. And my theory is, of course, I don't know anything about you. Maybe there's some very obvious things in your diet you think are fine, but I would take one look at and I'd go, bang, okay, just get rid of this or switch this and you'll start losing weight. I can't run those diagnostics without a lot more information, but I should think that you're simply consuming a few too many calories, quite obviously, to actually get that scale moving. So that's what you need to look at. And I would suggest the best method to do that is tracking your calories for a couple of days and then trying to reduce the more caloric dense foods in your diet. And that's going to be a way to siphon off a lot of calories without losing that much food volume. So hopefully you can still stay full and satisfied. What else have we got here? Any other comments? Just eat 2.5 kilos of potatoes per day. Once you peel them up with 2.2 times 0.83, and you get about 1850 calories, weight lift and walk. Yeah, I won't check those numbers, but that sounds mathematically reasonable. Once you lose weight, start eating 3K, so you get, yeah, I mean, I would suggest that your whole diet doesn't need to be potatoes. I understand the simplicity and I understand people's attraction to these sort of mono-meal diets, but don't do that. Don't do that. That's not my advice. That's not what I advocate. I think potatoes are an incredible tool. And, you know, if I was making a longer list than 11, I shared 11 tips today. If I was doing 20 tips, potatoes would absolutely make the cut. They were so integral, looking back to my fat loss journey. But I never did just potato diets on their own. I might do periods where I ate more potatoes and I included potatoes in 1 or 2 meals per day, but it wasn't a potato only diet. You know, in terms of macronutrients, in terms of micronutrients. To get a little bit more, you don't need to be Puritan about this, to Brian Johnson levels, for example, absurd Puritanism. But to have a little bit more diversity and variety in your diet is highly recommended from both a macro and a micronutrient perspective. And potatoes will get boring fast, even though they are really, really effective. Thanks, Ryan. I love your YouTube videos and advice. Thanks for what you do. Absolute pleasure. And on that note, we're going to wrap up, folks. Pleasure talking to you today. At the end of doing a live stream, I'm always like, I love doing that live stream. They're hard work, but at the end of doing this live stream, I'm always like, I miss doing these live streams. So you are going to see a return to them. Now I'm in my new place and I'm not traveling for a couple of months. And so I'm really glad to not be. That's why I smiled then, because I probably sound so arrogant. There's probably people that would chew their own hand off to do a little bit more traveling than they have the means to. So I'm so fortunate to live the lifestyle and have the opportunities that I have today. But simultaneously, I'm really glad to just be home now and move into my new place and just focus on making videos and being more attentive with my clients and building new programs and whatnot. We've got the test program for the last 10 pounds, which you can learn about. I'll stick a link to that down below, as well as my main flagship vegan slim and sustain program, so you can learn more about that. But I'm just really excited now to be in my bubble, and I'm stressed because I've got a lot to do to get this new place ready and furnish it and take care of things. There's been a lot of outgoings, expenditure, but I'm really excited for the work that I'm going to put in over the next couple of months. So lots more of these, short version, lots more live streams and just regular videos coming soon. How did you like that I'm nearly 30 years old failure video, by the way, guys? The feedback, the comments has been insane. That's had hardly any views, but the engagement has been really, really interesting. So some of you guys are really, really interested in that stuff. It's only a small percentage of people that are ever going to watch a video with that title. Most people are just here for the conventional weight loss stuff from me. But you guys that seem to, for some reason, for one reason or another, care about my opinion or my insights on other things, or like me a little bit for some reason, you enjoy listening to me ramble on. You know, the people that are really into that, you seem to love those different videos from me on other things. So let me know your feedback on that. But thanks, folks. If you want that next level of support and accountability, like I say, from me, go to veganslimandsustain.com. But hopefully this free info was enough to start piecing things together. And take care. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Hopefully now I can go and catch a little bit of the England rugby game. I've got no idea what the score is. It's probably almost finished. So I'm going to go eat some dinner a bit later on, a couple of coaching calls tonight, and finish off the weekend with work, but work that I'm happy and grateful to be doing. Take care, everyone. Speak soon-ish.